Hi everyone, this is the Shop Stool Podcast, episode 3, season 3, and I'm joined by 3 very cool people tonight. The first, of course, is Joey Chalk from King Post Timberworks. Joey, how are you?
I am excellent now that I am in the cool category.
And we've also got Bryan Cush from Sawdust Bureau. Bryan, how's it going?
I'm really good, Robin. How are you up there?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Thank you.
Yeah.
And my name is
Still
Robin
in a
Lewis.
singlet, huh?
Still in the singlet. All the way up north, we kind of I think we just miss out on winter. That's just the way life goes.
Don't rub it in.
And finally, our guest for tonight is an incredible woodworker. Her name is Alexsandra Pontonio, all the way from Melbourne. Alex has a healthy list of awards and press pieces, and tonight we'll be talking about some of that. So welcome to the show. Great to have you, Alex. How are you this evening?
Feeling good.
Good. That's always a good start. So we've had guests on the show before, and what always works is just to get a bit of a background of, I guess, where you've come from in terms of your woodworking career and what led to this point. One of the things that I really like to hit on is for anyone listening who's trying to get to a position where you are, what were some of the decisions that you made that you think really helped?
Cool. So I started off my journey probably in 2014. And I made the decision in 2013 that being a woodworker is what I wanted to do. And that decision happened as I was pulling apart. We did a big road trip around Australia, and I was pulling apart our alternator to try and get the vac pressure working better. And my partner was just like, just become a mechanic. Because I was a little bit lost at the time. And he's just like, you just love fixing things. You love working with your hands. Like, I don't, I just think you should be a mechanic. And I replied to him. I was like, nah, I'll be a woodworker. And he was really confused.
A natural pivot from mechanics to woodworking, of course. I mean,
yeah. But that a little seed was planted for me in high school. I was quite good at woodworking and had an excellent teacher. And I just sort of left it behind there and then, picked it up again maybe 10 years after that. And so the way I started my journey was to go to university. That's the only way I knew how to get education, having already done a degree. And the course I did was at RMIT in Melbourne, and it's a 2-year course, so it looked like a accomplishable task or undertaking. And that was a great course. I got a little bit frustrated. Maybe at the end of my first semester, I went to my teacher and I was just like, I'm not learning enough. I just wanted an apprenticeship. This is all too conceptual. And I was sort of frustrated with the course. And he said, well, what do you want to learn? And I said, I want to be a good woodworker. And he said, well, start designing in a way that you'll gain the skills that you want. And then I did start to build things that I wanted to learn into my designs, and that's kind of what I've continued to do.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That sounds very much, Joey, like your story as well. You were along the same lines.
That really rang a bell with me because essentially, I told the story long ago, but I'll quickly go over it. Is that when I kind of hung the sign on the wall to say, okay, now I'm open for business, I kind of turned around and looked at my workshop and thought, shit, I don't know how to make all sorts of things. What if someone asked me for this thing? And so I said, right, I better learn how to make cabriolet legs. Let's go do that. And that's what I did. And then I ended up getting all these jobs where I make bloody cabriolet legs. And it's an interesting thing where you just like put yourself into a bit of a corner and say, well, I need to put this feature into my work, and that's it. That's what you get.
So Alex, you say you were in the beginning of that story, you were fixing an alternator. Have you come from a background of trade?
No.
I mean, I wouldn't know where to start with an alternator, and you just sort of threw that in like you were just fixing it.
Yeah, I just, I have a habit of pulling apart things that don't work, and we were having a lot of trouble. We were driving a 1980s Land Cruiser down the west coast of Australia, and we were losing pressure in our brakes. And in the particular car, it's a diesel engine. I don't know heaps about mechanics, but the alternator creates a vacuum pressure, and that assists the brakes. And we were at...
Yeah, that's news to me.
New? Yeah, I could get it completely wrong. You might have mechanics call up and just be like, she doesn't know what she's talking about.
You could be telling us the biggest stories ever, and we would all just believe you.
But there was sort of nothing we could do about it. And I was at a caravan park and I was talking to a guy, and he's just like, oh, just pull it apart and just give it a clean. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, just take it out, take the top off, give it a clean. I was like, okay. And so I did it. And I sort of assumed that if I got something wrong, he'd sub in and help out. But yeah, my partner was he just thought I was hilarious because I just had the confidence to start pulling apart the car.
It's funny you say that. I reckon there is a logic, especially in kind of cars of that era. There's a sort of a troubleshooting logic. I actually had something very, very similar happen to me before I got into woodworking.
Yeah, see? This is a spark.
It's so funny you said it. I was in Africa, and we were driving an old Toyota in Malawi, and the alternator broke. And all these local bush mechanics were trying to work out how to fix the alternator. And I was trying to think about, geez, how does an alternator work? And eventually I worked out that one of the magnets had lost its charge.
Right.
So we went in, the guys went to a scrapyard and found all these extra spare magnets, and we replaced the magnet. But yeah, it is the kind of thinking that really benefits somebody in a woodworking job, I think. Like the problem solving that you have to do, even when it's your own machinery and equipment and stuff, if something breaks, you got to find a way to fix it, because I can't afford to pay anybody to come into my workshop to fix machinery, and I would assume most people are in the same position.
I spend far too much time fixing the machines at our workshop than I should, because we have a technician to do it, but I get so caught up in it.
Tell us about your workshop.
Okay, yeah. So I'm at the Victorian Woodworkers Association, and I think you've had a couple of tenants on the show already. Yeah. I've been there for, I'm going to say a year and a half, but it's probably longer.
But COVID probably took a fair bit out of that. Last year
was a time warp. I can't quantify it. And yeah, there's 6 of us at the moment, so it's really pumping. A really great vibe. We all have... Actually, don't know. I went back and listened to a few of your podcasts, and you're all talking about the size of your shops and stuff, and I have no idea about what space looks like on a floor scale. I'm going to say 3 by 4 meters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not too much.
Not too much, but then we have a shared machine shop, and we have benches that we can break out into, which are shared with the school. But as long as we clear up that space by the end of the day. So there's a lot of pulling things out and putting things back.
So 3 by 4, what is in your workshop then? Because that is.
I
mean, it's not tiny.
It's probably 3.5.
It's not a big one.
I just have a crappy bench that I don't use as my workbench. I use it more for storage, and then all my stuff. And then at the moment, I've got a couple of sawhorses, and I'm doing a 2.3 meter dining table. So I sort of have the timber for that laid out in the middle of my shop. But I'm sort of using the area more as storage or like where I hang my tools and put my stuff. And then I break out to the other benches to do my day work.
And so you there every day, all day now? Making sawdust?
I'm making lots of sawdust. I'm pretty much there every day. I've got a little part-time gig. I asked them today, I went in and asked if I could announce it, but I'm doing some product design for TimberCon, which is a retailer in Melbourne. And we're designing a range of hand planes.
Wow.
Which we started kind of in maybe February last year, and then lockdown happened and all the things happened. But yeah, I've been developing a range of planes, and I think we're on number 4. So
Are these going to be cast iron, or are these small, like something H&T Gordon might produce?
No, they're cast. They're cast.
Wow.
Yeah, they just decided
That's
to
awesome.
take it on themselves. And yeah, when I was approached, they asked me like, "Oh, you know how to do CAD, don't you?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know how to do CAD." And I had a bit of a background. I learned it at uni. But yeah, it's been a huge learning journey. It's been really exciting. I also knew very little about hand tools. And I presented with a full disclaimer, and they said, "Oh, we like that. You haven't got any biases and you don't think you know everything."
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, I don't know where I would start if someone said, "Can you design a plane?" Because I don't even know if I can think of a way that, presumably you're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but there's going to be a certain amount of uniqueness to it, I imagine.
Well, there's not a huge, I've definitely come up, we're doing like it's a low angle range.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, to be honest, like in terms of the technology, there's not heaps. I'm sure there's a lot you could do, but it's a case of, the whole idea of not reinventing the wheel. It's been done a certain way because it's technology that really works.
Yeah.
So the uniqueness will come from, it being designed in Melbourne. We've come up with all our own shapes. We've done all ergonomics, and the handles and everything are unique to us.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's been really exciting. And there's a few little features that we've, obviously added in through observing and finding things that don't work. Yeah.
I feel like we could talk about this for a whole hour by itself.
I know.
So what are the lead times, Alex? Like, how long is it going to take before you have prototypes back? Or?
We've got prototypes.
You got prototypes?
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. It's been really great. It was just amazing getting the block plane and starting to use it. And I'm using it every day, and I love it. And I was just previously using like a record, old school blue record, which I liked. But yeah, the block planes, it's just pretty exciting to be working with it. And
that's cool.
I saw on your website you've got I think it was under your press or some of the news, there was a picture of you with TimberCon. So you've obviously done work with them in the past? A
little bit, yeah. They put me on the front of their cover one year.
Yeah, that's right. It was a cover picture. Yeah.
And then they just asked me back, why was I in the store? Oh, they got me to do videos for Bessie Clamps. They just contacted me out of the blue because they always like to get makers involved.
Yeah, well, I've just finished doing some videos for them as well for the Pony Jorgensen clamps that they've just released.
Yeah, I just went on your Insta and I saw that you were one of their ambassadors.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. So it is very cool. I think it's a very cool win-win situation for them. We get some promo, they get some free promo. It works really well, and it's I would assume it's the same in most of these sorts of industries. As soon as you can build up that community feel amongst your people involved, people gravitate to it. As soon as you try and be above that, you just turn people off so quickly. So they're really nurturing that, which is amazing.
I find them, they're just fun to work with. They're easy, and they don't... I could have felt really intimidating stepping into that space and trying to navigate hand tools and stuff, but they're just supportive.
Yeah. So I have a bone to pick.
Yep.
And that is about your bookcase.
Yes.
That you entered into the wood review and stole my position. Because I tried really hard, and now I can see why I didn't get in.
I really tried hard and didn't win.
I hope you didn't hear that episode where he was bad-mouthing you,
Yeah, this person came in and put bookends in a shelf. No, I didn't.
What a cool piece, though. Hey,
Oh,
wow,
thank you.
those. I really. I don't now. I've never built a bookshelf like that. But the idea of those bookends being removable, I don't know if that's revolutionary, but I think it's pretty cool. They are removable, right?
Yeah, they just slide in and out, and then you can replace them with a flat one. So, in theory, you could, mine are very kind of strategically placed, and I actually just spoke to my clients, and I was like, what do you want to put and where? And then I made it look a bit nicer than what they said.
Yeah.
But, yeah, in theory, you could have them all, like, lined up and then change it.
Yeah.
It's a
very, very cool piece. So for everyone listening, it's what's the best way to describe it? It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shelves, including the top. It's a very light design, I'd call it. What's the legs? What size is that? They look square stock.
They're not square. They're actually tapered, so they follow the same taper as the dovetail, 8 degrees. And so they fade backwards. So the widest point at the front, and so it gives it a very light look. Does that make sense? I think they were like 32 millimeters, maybe. The golden,
because it's quite
the
tall.
golden 32. It's 1.8 meters, I think.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I've actually built a really big one since. Oh, it's a different design, which I just haven't put the photos out yet. But I can't remember. No, it's been a long time since I built that one.
And the timber that you're using?
Blackwood and Victorian ash.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, keeping it local.
Nice.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's such a cool piece. With these types of pieces, one of the things that we talk about on the show quite often is the quoting process. What to do, how to go about it. Joey's got some amazing clients and stories about clients that we won't get into today because they generally end in a rant. But in terms of your quoting process, are you quite strict in the way you work, or is it very much just take it as it comes?
I'm so trying to figure it out, and I was hoping this kind of question wouldn't come up. I'm really bad at the business, and I'm still really finding my feet. So for years, I've always had a part-time hustle. So although I've been sort of engaged in the woodworking and the scene, scene, inverted commas, for quite a few years, I actually haven't done that much because I've always just treated it like my part-time hustle. But COVID forced me to, it got rid of my job. I was working at the university and there were no more students. So I was a technician in the workshop teaching students how to use tools. And there were no more workshops or tools. So I did the famous pivot, the COVID pivot. And now, for the last year or so, I've been taking woodworking as more of a full-time pursuit. So quoting, that piece, I tried to add up all my hours, and I went through each step, and I, terribly underestimated, but I stayed true to my quote, so I don't want to ever charge people more or trying to explain that it took longer than I thought it would. And since then, I have a new approach, which is do my design, think about how much I think I'd be comfortable walking away with it, and that's kind of where I'm at the moment.
Yeah.
But that's underquoting as well, as it turns out.
Well, it can and it can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's certainly one way to do it.
Yeah. And so then I build that. That's what I think the build is worth. And that takes into account, there is a bit of, there's more than just what I feel good about. I take into account my overheads and my consumables and, try and guess how many weeks or months it's going to take. And then I will give the client an option about materials and just add that straight, whatever they they go for with timber, that gets added to the price.
Yeah, I think labour is always going to be the biggest killer. Because typically, like, let's say you're dealing with a dining table, and unless you're dealing with some super rare timbers, it's not going to break the bank. The amount of timber you use is not going to be outrageous compared to the amount of hours that you're going to put into it. So I've always been a pretty firm believer in really knuckling down and really trying to figure out how long it actually takes to make a thing. And at the start, what I did was, when I did my first few projects, every time I did a job that was quite different from the last, I'd actually have a pen and paper in the workshop and say, right, it took me 15 minutes to change the blade on the saw, mark it down, and it's going to take me 20 minutes to actually machine a piece of timber down. And then you can you end up with a kind of a list of actual times it takes to do stuff, not just what you think, because it's often quite different. And then when it comes to quoting something, you can kind of just look up at your list and go, well, it takes me on average 15 minutes to dress one piece of timber down, and I've got 40 pieces here, so it's a pretty easy maths to do. And it gets you really close to what the actuals are actually going to be.
And is that working out for you? Is that what you do now?
Well, I did that at the start, and I've changed my quoting process quite a bit since then. I still go through, in my head, I mentally build the project and write, like, how long does it take me to go and pick up the timber? An hour and a half. How long does it take me to mill this timber up? And I've got this much, I think it's going to be about an hour. How long is it going to take me to screw this box together? And I kind of have all my each process down as a time for each job. So I have a pretty good idea how long it's going to take.
Where are those sneaky unknowns that come in? You're like, so that particular bookshelf piece, I thought I could cut, so the uprights are notched into the shelves, and they are notched in at the same angle, so 8 degrees, like little triangles with the tops cut off. And I was like, yep, I'll set the saw up, I'll flip it over, I'll get 2 angled cuts, I'll clean it out with chisel, and then I went to put it on my saw, and it's too long to cut both ways on the saw.
So they go by hand.
So then I did them all by hand.
Yeah.
I did them with a router template, but even still, it took me so long. And then I realized I wouldn't be able to put the uprights in because it's notched. The shelves had to go in and drop down. So I had to undercut under each of those notches on an angle. And I think...
So, yeah, that is really specific, but for one, to answer your first question, like that case of, it's not going to fit in the saw for whatever particular reason, I think there's 2 answers. That's for your current saw, you now know that kind of joinery is going to be handwork.
Yeah.
But you never know what happens in the future. You might get a different kind of saw, or have available a different kind of tool, which would actually make that be more machinable. But yeah, my first thought was, well, you just got to make yourself a jig and route them as much as you can out. Yeah. But those kind of unknowns are what happened to me all the time, because it's the first time you've done that kind of work. And you just got to make that mental note, or even a physical note, and say, right, if I ever do something like that again, I'm doubling the amount of time it takes to make that particular part of it. And that's just a really good big learning curve that you have to do.
Yeah. I like, Bryan, your work. You obviously do one-offs, but you have a few products, and I don't know, I kind of see, the more I haven't actually made that many pieces. But I'll be able to build these details into new pieces, and you sort of can then quantify your time because you remember what it took, or you know the process.
That's right.
Yeah. Joey, you're pretty experienced. I mean, you are...
What's that, sorry?
You're pretty experienced at this point. You are many, many years into woodworking. So I would imagine, just from what you've been saying, Alex, you guys are in very different places. So it's you're almost expected to be making those mistakes now to get to the experience. And in terms of the clients that you are working with, are they... people you know, or are they just people getting in contact with you?
The last clients I had, they just got in contact with me. They'd seen the sideboard I designed for Manapan. And they liked it. I think they saw it in a magazine. But he knew someone who knew me. So I'm finding, and my current clients, they're a friend of a friend. So I'm finding that people come to me through word of mouth, but because they want my work, which is nice.
Right. Rewind a little bit to the Manapan thing.
Sorry. So I designed a sideboard for a company that is based up in Arnhem Land. And it's being produced by...
Just pause. So for non-Australians, Arnhem Land is like probably one of the most remote regions in Australia.
In the world.
Fairly limited road access. A lot of the communities are just... They have an airstrip or a jetty or something that they get their supplies in. So to set a furniture company up there...
Yeah.
Bloody hell, that must have been hard.
Yeah. So the guy who founded it, Mark White, he had a background in joinery and had built, from a backyard kind of garage setup, had built a big joinery company. They do a lot of commercial fit outs, like in like department store sort of joinery fit outs. And they're based here and they do work in China. And he sort of came to the realization that he'd had a really fruitful career and wanted to do a project that was good and could give back. And so he got on board with this organisation called ALPA, and they're called the Arnhem Land Progress. I should know this better. For ALPA Association. Anyway, they help create sustainable business models in Indigenous community, and they partnered up and they created this project to create high-end furniture in very, very remote Arnhem Land. It's on an island, and all the supplies come in and out, like Bryan said, on a barge, and they train locals and give them qualifications through the program.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you designed a piece that is going to be mass.
Two questions at once.
All right, Joey.
Yes.
Did you get to go up and visit?
I haven't been up. I was hoping to go up last year, and so there's, from what I understand, gender is a difficult to work with your opposite gender. There's women's business and men's business, and probably other businesses, but they really wanted me to go up and try and encourage some of the women to come into the workshop, and it would be a women's space. But COVID happened. And it's
but COVID.
Yeah, but COVID. I might actually try and my partner's from the NT, so we do go up to Darwin, and we're going up in August, so maybe I'll try and organise something. But I wasn't sure. I never got a proper invite as well, so I wasn't sure whether I was allowed to just rock up. It's a pretty small place.
One of the pictures that I saw was from the block.
Yeah.
I always get the block and house rules mixed up. I feel like I'm going to make some enemies saying that. Yeah. But now, was that piece of yours on the show?
Yes. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, the Manapan has a showroom in South Yarra, and the block went to the showroom and bought it and some of the contestants did, and put it in their house.
So it was on TV?
It was on telly.
Yeah, so you made it. That's it.
I know. That's why I thought I'd, pack it up and go home.
This is why we got you on the show, Alex. You're a superstar.
Huge. Exactly.
This piece you're talking about, is this the side table / bookcase where you essentially have the dowel going through the plywood?
No, it's a sideboard. It's a big timber sideboard.
Oh, that one, yes,
with
right.
Awesome. Shaped legs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very nice piece. So, can we talk about the bendy dowel through the plywood piece?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it's called. What do you call that piece?
I call it. It's got a silly
I wish
name.
that was the name. That would be such a
the
roll off the tongue
dowly.
name.
It's called ondule, and onda
Right.
means wave. And then I was living
Okay.
with someone, and we were like ondule.
So, for people who haven't seen it, I want to give it as my most awful description of it. Essentially, you've got like a 3 or 4 bookshelf,
Yeah.
where the supports for the shelf go through the shelf and instead of underneath it, and each shelf is like it looks to me like earth after an earthquake, which is just kind of bending around something solid, and presumably you've either made your own plywood or steam bent some plywood somehow in a pretty tight curve around what appears to be a dowel, but I actually think you've made your own, rounded off your own square stock or something.
It's the magic 32.
Yeah.
31.8. 31.8.
Because I've got quite a lot of experience in bending plywood. I started making skateboards when I was 13, and it looks like you've made your own plywood. Is that what you did, or?
I did, yeah.
You did?
That was the last piece I made at uni. And that was build what you want to learn in your piece.
Right, yeah.
And I wanted to learn about ply. I was really inspired by like the mid-century bent lamination stuff. And I made a form, a CNC cut form, and I worked out, because I know a little bit of CAD, I worked out my radii. And so I did a lot of tests and figured out how tight I could get it.
That's awesome. Because I was trying to figure out how you made it, and then I stumbled across a picture of you bloody trying to glue up the shelf in place around the supports.
Yeah,
and
that was
what a crazy idea.
Yeah, and I'm glad this has come up because I kind of so we were talking about working at the VWA, and it's excellent, and I'm learning so much. I'm working with some really good makers around me, and I'm learning so much about the rules of woodwork, and I've got my furniture making encyclopedia, and I'm getting all the things, but I'm in the creativity is still there. I really like to explore form and shape, but that piece, I would never do that now. There's just so many things that are wrong with it from a technical point of view. But it works, and it's still, I've never put heavy books on it, and I don't think I ever will. But it's really I think I did that in 2016. So, what are we, 7 years? Is that right?
Yeah.
No, 4, 5,
Yep.
6. 6 years?
5 years.
5 years? 2001, yeah, sorry. Yep, not 2020. Sorry, 2021. Where are we?
We're woodworkers, we're not mathematicians.
Yeah, we just do maths every day on a regular basis. So it's still holding up, and there's just so many things that are technically wrong with it. I used PVA.
What? There's nothing wrong. Oh, to laminate it?
Yeah, to laminate it.
That's what skateboards are made out of. That's how they do it.
Yeah, but they're supposed to be flexible.
They do add a catalyst to make it go off faster, so they only press skateboards for about 30 minutes. But
where were you when I was making this? I have so many questions.
No, PVA is awesome.
Yeah.
I loved how you. I've had clients want a similar detail where you've got a dowel leg that bends across and becomes the horizontal support for the shelf. Mm-hmm. And your idea just to have a simple, a through or a bridle joint essentially, and then you've rounded it off and just cut the corner off and made it look like a bent dowel. I mean, that's just so simple but genius, and I never would have thought to do that because it's too obvious. But it's so nice having that simple exposed joinery on a curved surface. I think that's
I was pretty fortunate with that detail because a guy I was studying with was just really into the router at the time, and he was exploring a lot, and he taught me heaps.
Right.
But he was just super experimental, and he just kept rounding anything he could. He still does. His stuff's beautiful, but he just rounds everything, and yeah.
Just got this image of a man walking through town with a router in his back pocket, just rounding over everything he comes.
I was just going to say that was the first piece that I ever saw of yours, and I remember you being paranoid as all hell if somebody asked to buy it. about the plywood either delaminating or the whole thing just sagging over time. So it's good to hear it.
I've never sold one either.
I told you. I told you it wouldn't sag though.
You did.
How thick is the top and bottom layer? Like
12 mil. So 6 and 6.
Oh, right.
So is it 24 mil when it through the middles? Oh, it's 12 mil total.
Yeah, 12.
And the span is what, a meter?
Just under, which is where I think it works.
I don't think that's going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Especially with the amount of veneers.
You still got it in your house, Alex?
Yeah, it's in my front. It's on my front door. It's my hallway table. There's 2 of them. I had to exhibit in 2 places at one time, and so I was picked up from my grad show. I was picked up by Craft Victoria to be in their Fresh exhibition, which is like a graduate showcase for Victorian uni graduates. And they, at the same time, I was asked to exhibit it in Milan at the Furniture Fair with Melbourne Movement.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. And so I had to quickly make another one, which I did. And yeah, so there's 2. The first one just lives at uni. It's very wobbly. It's not wobbly. It's just very wonky.
I love that piece. I would have thought you'd have sold 100 of them by now.
Yeah, I'm not great at marketing, I think.
No, fair enough. I can see, like, definitely the way the way you've made it is super time consuming, having to laminate it together in situ. Did you conceive of laminating the shelves up and finishing them, and then finishing the frame, but having it dry fit, and then slide the frame through the holes in the shelves, and then just glue it together?
Yeah, I actually have come up with a few solutions. So it's actually quite a producible piece, and I did speak to a plywood manufacturer about it, but I just never really... I don't know. I've just never.
You're over it. You're on to bigger, better things.
I would do it. I mean, I've seen like some similar looking things around on Instagram since, so I've kind of let it free. But I...
There's one for you, Bryan.
have you seen
Bryan loves it when people borrow IPs. He loves it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. It breaks my heart every time. But I think when I met Bryan as well, that piece... I'll just go back to the technical aspects of it. I was asked in Milan by a marble company to make it out of marble.
Oh.
And
wowzers.
Yeah. And that never happened.
So to make the entire piece out of marble?
No, they wanted to make timber frame with the shelf out of marble.
That would look stunning. Huh?
It would, and they were. It was like a bathroom range.
Whoa.
And I sent them all my drawings and stuff, and I just never heard back. And I followed up a few times, but I don't know.
And now they've sold 1,000 of them.
I keep my eye on it. They haven't. They kind of haven't released anything since, so maybe they stopped producing products. They were mostly like a marble distributor, and then they had product range. So I did come up with a solution, and yeah, that was, I think the timber was going into pipe, and then it was fixed underneath with like fastenings. Yeah. And that could work. The other thing was when I actually designed that piece, it was supposed to be a flat pack, because basically all my furniture is flat pack by accident. So the bookshelf's actually pretty much a flat pack too, the one.
Right.
Yeah, except the cabinet, but the rest all folds down. And so the shelves were supposed to come in 2 parts, and they had to insert threaded into it.
Yeah.
And then they were
cool.
going to fix onto the frame. But I ran out of time. So that's why we just glued it all together.
That's a cool solution, though, actually. Really simple.
Yeah. So the shelves closing over the...
Yeah.
Yep.
So what are you working on at the moment?
I'm doing a dining table out of myrtle from the Otways, old myrtle, which is lovely to work with.
Anything exciting about it?
Build what you want to learn. So I'm learning. It's not, I don't know. I don't think anything I do is that exciting, and then I put it out in the world and everyone's like, oh, that's nice. Not everyone. I'm sure not everyone. It's got some pretty, it's got a nice detail around the leg. I can't really describe it. It's got some breadboard ends. I've never made those before.
Cool.
Yeah. It's my first big dining table.
Yeah, cool. So you said myrtle.
Yep.
What type of myrtle? As in Tasmanian myrtle?
No, it's Victorian. So it's from the Otways.
What colour is that? I've only really heard of the timber. I don't think I can recall seeing it anywhere.
It's quite an orangey pink, and it has heaps of figure in it. So it's almost like the table is going to look like almost like tie-dye, like hypercolour. It's got like
awesome.
Heaps of stuff going on. So the form needed to be quite simple, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the clients chose the actual boards. They went into the timber yard and chose the boards, which has been a fun process too.
Plus, when they pick it, you're like, not my fault.
I know. I'm like, that's got a big knot in it. I'm going to fill it with epoxy. No,
it's not your fault until you cut one piece like 100 mil short, and then you're like, shit.
Yeah.
They don't need to know that.
Yeah.
Was it drummed into you at uni about using locally sourced materials, or is that your own doing?
My background is in sustainability, so I have a enviro social science degree.
Awesome.
And yeah, I just have to think of both end life, which is why I try and make my things as flat packable or repairable as possible, so that if a component breaks, it can be replaced.
That's pretty smart.
The local timbers, I mean, is a conflict, right? None of them are FSC certified, and I don't know how great our logging practices are. But I
think we've had a few different timber guys on the show, and they've completely undermined FSC as well. So
it's
like,
I think I learned that at uni too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just try and be really scarce with my usage as well. That's actually one thing I'm really good at quoting and figuring out is exactly how much timber I need.
Yeah. That's a really good skill to have going forward, because if you're like at the moment, like for example, American walnut is an outrageous price, and you really need to know, like, just so you don't lose out, you need to know how much you're going to be spending on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, from a sustainability perspective, I think you've nailed it. So it's that kind of fourfold thing of learning how to quote properly, minimizing waste, flat packing, sourcing locally, and really good design as well. Like creating things that don't date, rather than just throwing crap out there. And yeah, it's a really, really well thought out sustainability practice. So it's obviously, it shows what you've learned in previous education. That's cool.
It reminds me of the conversation we had with Jem from Like Butter, where he was talking about how he had this like existential crisis about creating two products and one that lasted longer than the other, and he couldn't sleep at night with the fact that the one wouldn't last as long. And it's such a cool way to look at it, because I think it's very easy to get into the mindset of, I'm just going to make the piece. The client wants the piece, I'm just going to make the piece and get it out the door, make the money, and off you go. So there was, on one of your posts, Alex, on Instagram, you just got some new timber, and you said something like, thanks to the tree that made the timber for me. And it just it kind of hints at what you're saying. It's this cool idea of, really respecting that timber and where it comes from. Do you ever work with recycled products?
No, I don't. The timber I'm using at the moment is salvaged. Like it's from Urban Salvage. I think you've done a podcast on them before. Yeah. And that's the first sort of, it's kind of almost the gnarliest timber I've worked with. But I think just the look of my work, I never say never, like if the time and place called. But just sort of like I think one thing I do try and achieve is like a certain sense of crispiness. And recycled stuff it's got so much going on that you can lose some details when the timber asks you to look at it too much.
As someone who's still doing this part-time and will, hopefully eventually one day do this full-time, all of my projects for myself, I will make out of the recycled stuff because I've got heaps of stuff. I've been collecting it for years. But as soon as a client comes along, I'm out to the timber yard to get something because I know what I'm going to get. I can get more of it if I need.
Yeah.
And those are just all factors that when you're doing a client build, unless it's something really small, it just seems like too much of a gamble. As much as it would be great, I've got my own timber drying, but even that, because it's been air dried, and I'm not particularly versed in it, it's too much risk for a client project.
It can be very daunting when you have a finite supply of whatever it is, and you need to suddenly start making big decisions about where you cut boards. Like I said before, suddenly you're 100 mil short somewhere, and there's no going back. Suddenly the table's just going to be shorter.
Yeah, one of the projects I did a couple of years ago, someone actually cut a tree down, had it milled up, sent it to me, sat in under my house for 2 years. And then they said they wanted a project, it was a bookcase built out of it. And looking back on it, I think I must have had some giant nuts to take that on because there was one tree. There was no going out. It was Bourne Bay ash, which isn't an easy timber to get. And it had to be that tree. And she basically wanted it as big as it could be with the timber. So once I'd quoted on the sides, there was no going back. But so that was an experience. All right, so Alex, anyone looking for your furniture, where can they find you?
My website is probably the best place, and I have a form where people can contact me. But Instagram, I don't know. Yeah.
I'm not going to try and spell the website because I saw it once and there's a lot of letters.
Yeah, I know. There's my name's spelled wrong too.
What?
As in my parents spelled my name wrong.
Oh, right.
Pontonio. Where is that?
That's Italian. That part's right.
I thought so. Yeah. They got that bit right.
Yeah, it's the Alexsandra, so it's Alexsandra. So jackpot S.
Yeah, cool.
Right.
So Instagram and the website. Yeah. For anyone interested, go have a look. Some of the work on it it's pretty spectacular. So yeah.
Thank you.
All right, I reckon we'll call the show there. So to everyone watching, or listening, I should say, thanks very much. The Shop Stool Podcast is available on most podcast apps. And if you did enjoy the show, we would really appreciate a rating on iTunes. That does help us out. So Joey and Bryan, thanks again for hanging out. And Alex, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thank you very much for stopping by. And to everyone listening, take care. And we will see you in the next show.
See ya.
Catch you later.
See you later.